to the Eclectic Herd, or in the case of our guest Atlas, good morning. We are on, what are we on? This is session 20, which actually makes it session 21 because we started at session 0, as so many games tend to. Um, we are already very active in the chat. It's good to see all of you. And as is per usual for anyone who hasn't been here before, we're going to start off with introductions. So, Bonsart, you have been here before, but please introduce yourself to anyone that did not make our quite spontaneous live stream.
Yes, hello everyone. I'm Bonsert Bokel from the Netherlands. I started with writing a steampunk series of books called The Association of Ishtar, which I started publishing in 2021. And based on that first book, a American company called Shadow Cabinet Games approached me and asked me, like, "Hey, would you like to develop a role-playing game on your setting?" And that is Night Watch. And yeah, I hope to launch that very, very soon.
Excellent. Looking forward to it. And Josh.
Hey there, I'm Josh Heath. I'm one part of High Level Games. I've been a longtime gamer, started in LARP back in the mid to late 90s. And then about 10, 12 years ago, got working in the industry. Now act as a publisher, writer, editor, layout person. The only thing I don't do is art. I can sort of draw some things, but you don't want me to put that art in a book because it's not really the kind of art most people are looking for.
Oh, that's very interesting. There are several people that have been floating around the Discord server who have been looking for someone who could give them advice on layouts. So, um, I did not know that, so I have not been giving them your name, but you might become very popular.
No worries. Happy to give advice.
And Atlas.
Yeah, I'm Atlas from Australia. I've been playing games since I was like 8, GMing for almost 20 years, and got to the point where my custom setting wouldn't fit any system that existed. So I'm like, I'll just make one myself. And yeah, that's how I got to this point.
Homebrewing to the nth degree.
Yes,
All right.
got to
Well,
know how the
welcome.
rules work before you can mix them up, though.
Well, yes, very much so. I say that about the English language. People will ask me about editing questions, and I say, you have to know what the rules are for editing before you can then break them and have it mean something.
Yes.
All right. I'm going to say a quick hello to the chat. Rio is here. He is back to being the first person in the chat. Rio, we missed you last week. Legatus is one of my mods here. Welcome. He does a fabulous job. Natty, I believe Natty is fairly new to gaming, so we're trying to do, gentle introductions where we can. And the psychotic mongoose uh, brings us word that apparently Tomby Stream has sent all his people here. So welcome to everyone who was in Tomby Stream. Um, Rick, Rick, I am going to meet in the real world for the first time on Sunday, along with Tomby, who is coming from the UK to visit us in the United States. Tomby is a friend of the channel because without him, this channel wouldn't exist. Eraserhead is our super mod. He is kind of a mind reader and frequently knows what I need backstage before I even need it. In fact, he's already got a whole bunch of your links already up in chat. And we haven't even started yet. I am sure we are going to have more people who will bounce in as time goes on. Usually takes 10 or 15 minutes for everybody to kind of find their way in. I was going to do announcements because usually our introductions take longer. I guess I will do announcements now and then I'll just kind of repeat it at the end of the show. I have a poll up on the Discord for those of you that are in the Eclectic Herd server. I am thinking about making some changes to the channel, and I would really like everyone's input. Eraserhead has pinned the poll to the Discord general chat, so if everyone pretty please could go and cast your votes. I would really appreciate it, and it would really help me out a lot because I really need some feedback on what people want to see. Um, so with that, I guess we are going to kick things right off. Bonsart is very late at night, so we're going to let him let him go first so that he can bounce if he needs to or nap if he needs to. And then, of course, as always, if you have questions for him, please put them in the chat and I will star them for when he tells me that he's ready. And take it away.
As I said, I'm Bonsard Bokel. I'm a writer and a YouTuber. I have a YouTube channel called Radio Retro Future. And then there I started making videos called the Steampunk Beginner's Guide, which kind of led me into the rabbit hole of starting to write my own stuff. And down the road, that eventually, I've got 7 publications at the moment. Draft of my 8th is nearly done. And I'm now also working on the role playing game system loosely inspired by Savage Worlds, which takes place in my steampunk universe of cosmic mystery and steampunk adventure.
Can you tell us a little bit about how the system runs?
Sorry, about what?
About how the system runs. Is it a point-by system? Is it a...
If you could show the Kickstarter page, I have all the mechanics visualized on there. Like I said, it's loosely based on the Savage World system, so the stats are in dice rather than abstract numbers. And I streamlined all the rules, which means that the GM has full control over the difficulty, and there is no dice rolls do not get modified. Only the difficulty gets modified. So the GM has full control over everything, and people really enjoy this system because there is no number crunching. It goes very fast. And we also have something unique, which is called the Fortune System, which is based on a card system that we have that can be expanded upon. People are really enthused about that. We've got several reviews on the Kickstarter site that I send you.
I have the Kickstarter up. Do you want me to play the video too?
That would be very useful. Yes.
All right. Everyone's going to have to mute because this is going to echo.
Greetings and welcome to an alternate 19th century, a time when anomalies called rifts are appearing across the globe. Gateways to other worlds, some of which are feral, but others are home to lost civilizations whose mechanical marvels remain. This caused an influx of technological innovations, but also alien threats who seek to plunge the world into peril. The Association of Ishtar is the first line of defense, observing the invaders and their collaborators from the shadows, like an eternal night watch. Explore other worlds, or dive into an alternate past in which futuristic technologies clashes with the uncanny. Night Watch is a fast-paced light tabletop RPG set in the Association of Ishtar universe by Bonsard Bokel. It's an easy-to-learn skill check system. Its fortune cards allow players to bring combat environments to life, Play as whatever you like, a Mac pilot, a racketeer selling trophies and technology to the highest bidder. Protect the world or embrace the change. It is up to you in Night Watch. Coming this May to Kickstarter.
Okay.
So yeah,
So
and
yeah, and if
yeah,
yeah.
go.
Oh, no, nothing. I was just commenting that I really liked it.
Mhm. Yeah, and
Yeah, and
if
if
you can
scroll
scroll
down,
down,
and
I hear
I hear
myself
myself
echo,
echo, by the way.
Yeah, hang on a second. I'm going to have to change how I share this. Um, if I put it so that I can do sound, it always echoes terribly, so I have to jump around a little bit. All right, there we go.
check. Okay, I
That
don't
should
hear
be
the
better.
echo anymore. But yeah, if you scroll down, you've got the full story, including the rules there. That also helps me a bit to uh, ground. But yeah, we've got a little bit about what you do. So you play one of the agents in the world of the Association of Ishtar. Um, as told in the video, is about this alternate 19th century. Um, with where rifts are causing all kinds of technological innovations to seep into the world, but yeah, also alien threats. And um, like, I started originally writing with short stories, kind of similar to SCP in a way, and I used those short stories then as inspiration for my larger books. And I also offer those short stories up. They're actual files from the universe itself, so you can literally share them with players during your games. This is what you have discovered. And yeah, here we've got some reviews, which has some very interesting statements as well, like that it's more of it's not a system focused on dungeon crawling. It's really focused on investigation and preparing your missions. And that's something that people really enjoy. I'm also surprised how well it turned out, because I thought it was a nice extra thing. It's called the project system, which kind of like allows you to role play longer spans of time in a single session. And yeah, that really works out well because you can really put your skills as a player to work. Um, and for the people who are interested in reading this, we do have an open beta at the moment, a beta that closes the moment that the Kickstarter begins, hopefully next week. That's what we're striving for. And if you go down, yeah, we also have a quick start guide. It's a bit outdated, but it works.
Yeah,
Um,
I was gonna ask you about that because there doesn't appear to be a link, and I assume that's because this isn't live yet.
oh, I need to check that. But I may have changed the graphic, so the link maybe. But it's on our main website, associationofishtar.com. So if you go
Excellent.
there, you should be able to find it pretty easily. Also, Eraserhead, the link you're currently sharing, that's the preview. If you remove like the weird reference, people will be sent to the actual pre-launch page so they can follow it. We're nearly at 400 followers, so it would be great if we can um, breach that tonight. That'd be amazing. But yeah, here we have a graphic about the check system. If you understand this, you understand about 70% of the game because it's quite light on rules. I like to sell it as a kind of like a light RPG in that regard, but it does have a lot of possibilities. Um, so yeah, and again, for the people who are familiar with Savage Worlds, probably recognize some of the dice mechanics. I just removed all the number crunching. Here we have like a short explanation of the fortune system, which determines initiative, and it also adds like kind of like random wild cards to the combat. Players will get the fortune, which is the light part on the cards, and the puppet master will get the black card. So it's kind of like pick your own misery, as it were. Of course, we also have amazing art by Johan. He's an amazing artist, very prolific as well. Um, so yeah, that's amazing. We also have an entire lore series if you want to learn more about the background of the world. And yeah, it's a very easy system. That's probably what I'm most proud of. And yeah, here we are getting into the products. We've got a player guide, which is kind of like the light version of the game, which game masters can lend to their players. And of course, we've got the Game Master Guide, which is a lot more component. I've got like a complete overview what the difference is between the two books. But yeah, with the player guide, you can play the game, but there's just a lot less meat on there. It's really intended for players who just want to have the rules so they understand it and make characters, and that's really it. We also have a lore supplement, Rising Tide. That's probably what people like most about it, is probably the lore, which is a lot of alternate history to it. And Rising Tide also focuses a lot on the Dutch Commonwealth. So there's a lot of historical references. So you'll learn a lot about history by reading the lore on the universe as well. And we also made a special anthology, which is the files. This is, by the way, concept cover. I'm still experimenting with that, so that will change. Yeah, we also have, I think you know Barlow Keep. He did an amazing review on it of an earlier version of the game. So I'm very grateful for him for making that.
Yeah, for
And
those who have been with the show for a while, Barlow Keep was actually one of our first guests and will be back. I can't remember if it's next week or the week after to talk about a creation he's done. So
mhm,
yeah,
yep.
great channel if anybody hasn't been there yet.
Yep. So yeah. And yeah, everyone who pledges over 100 euros will also become a beta tester and give feedback on the system. Tell us what they think. Tell us what they want changed. What is they think is unclear. And of course, people who pledge will also get all kinds of additional stuff. And we also, for the first 38 hours, we also got a whole bunch of special deals. Everyone will get a free boon die. We're looking into making that a physical reward. It probably will be a 3D printed die. They're still kind of like exploring that. And we have our own miniature range as well. These will be STLs. We're looking into getting them printed, but I want more certainty on that, if that will be an affordable option. But yeah, we've got an amazing deal on the STLs for those who support the project the first 38 hours. So if you're into printing, you get a 50% discount on the first set, which contains all the playable heroes and some monsters. And yeah, the other birds, we also got a custom die set of a molten core dice. They will look amazing. These are a digital mock-up that I made because they have not been made yet. But yeah, that's what they'll look like. And yeah, the
But
other,
dice, I mean,
yeah,
just
the
dice.
custom dice, yes. So yeah, and then you have like the player guide as well. If people are interested in an early deal that contains the lore book, let me know. I can still include that. Yeah, and these are we've got two basic miniature sets, including a steampunk mech from a sub series of our book series called the Casket Girls. We've got a more expanded version of that as well that also includes the book, The Casket Girls, which I forgot to include in the graphic, I just realized. But it is included in the reward.
Was
Let's see. I
this
see a
the
question in the chat. After you get feedback from the beta testers and changes are made, do you get updated versions as part of the testing? I update the version regularly. I mean, everyone will get the updated version eventually. What I'm planning to do is um, have a 2 month grace period so people can test it. I can start like communicating with the manufacturer and yeah, get all of that done. So yeah, there will be like 2 months. You'll be able to give feedback on it. so we can make the best possible rule book. And also, we're still working on some of the art. Not all of the art is done, but we are very far in development. It's really just, you know, getting all those thieving errors out of there. I need to include a table, a bit more pre-made information in the character creation process. Because I mean, it's hard to believe, but people think there's too much choice in character creation. Um, but yeah, I think we think we figured out how to make that process more painless. So it's by making some, well, not pre-made characters, but kind of like, well, this is the kind of archetype you want. Well, this is probably the perks that you want. Like how the perk system works is that we have 20 skill groups, but instead of in when you invest a point in a skill, instead of adding that to a die roll, instead you get to pick a perk, which can be either a combat ability or a particular skill, which is extremely important for the project system, which allows you to build vehicles, do research, make forgeries, scout out enemy locations, or what any type of long-term activity, really. So um, that's kind of the thing that people are, well, one of the people that like most. And at first, I thought it would be kind of like more of a gimmick, but we are starting to make more and more use of it. Because the project system really allows you to kind of put like deadlines on events, like you've got a week to prepare this, otherwise, because if you're not prepared, you're gonna feel the pain. That's kind of the idea. So we've got something called botch jobs, and if you do not fail to meet your deadline, there's going to be serious flaws in your designs or vehicles or forgeries or whatever you're working on. And over that week, and it really allows you, like, hey, you're the mechanic and you're the scout, so the mechanic is going to work this week on a vehicle while the scout is like scouting out the enemy terrain and having his own adventures in that time. And because how simple it is, we can do multiple combats in like 2 hour sessions. So that's probably something that people really enjoy about it. Just the flow and speed of things. And yeah, I don't recall what's exactly further down there, but yeah, we also offer the books, of course, including a comic that we have, Journey to Elysium, and yeah, you can get art made by Johan. Either a bust for, I think those are 90, and full body drawings are 125 from the top of my head, but I could be lying. And yeah, everything. We've got 3 fortune card sets. The basic one, which is included in a lot of the rewards. Then we have the special environment one. We have a VIP option. It should be linked on the Kickstarter page itself. There you can subscribe to our newsletter, and then you also get an option to become a VIP for €1. And yeah, and we also have a faction-based fortune card set. And there we've got the anthologies as well. Those are all in full color. And of course, we've got some new, bigger STLs as well, like Clude and Chevaudan, what you just. And here we have some of the stretch goals. We've got the typical pledge rewards. We've got rewards based on the number of copies ordered, because everything is about quantity with manufacturers. And down below, we also have some social goals, like follows on subscribers on Radio Retro Future. We've got one selfie. Well, not a competition, but take a selfie. If enough people posted enough selfies, we'll have some additional postcards with original art by Johan, posters, and more postcards. So, yeah. And I think then, yeah, we reached the end of.
Yeah, I think the rest of it's all Kickstarter stuff. So
Yeah, it's terms and conditions and stuff like that. Yes.
okay.
We already have distributors as well. We work with one based in Europe and one in the UK who will also ship it to the United States. So that should make it more painless for the people who are in the EU, so they don't get a threatening letter from the customs that that tends to happen over here. You know, if you think the tariffs of Trump are bad, the EU is worse. So
Um, so there will be physical copies of these
yes,
books at some point. Okay, because
yeah, yeah.
I think what Legatus was asking earlier was if would they get a copy of the book, like a physical copy of the book after changes had been made,
I mean
if they were beta
I mean
testing.
first we have the beta testing, so we have like all the errors that people like all the problems that people have detected are out of there. Then we're gonna get the books made and shipped.
Okay, got it. I think Legatus. Correct me if I was wrong. That was how I read your question because I know we're all big physical media people here. So,
Yeah.
um, and I know that the company that shall not be named uh took some flack for releasing both digital and hard copy books of their last edition, and then when it turned out that there were issues, they fixed the PDFs, but they couldn't fix the books, so everybody got stuck with
No,
books
no.
that
Here we're gonna fix
had
the
errors.
ebooks first. Here we're gonna fix the ebooks first, and then we're gonna use those fixed versions as the versions of the final digital of the physical copies. That's the plan.
So you're not following the video game method of we're going to release a broken product and then we'll just fix it later.
No, no. The whole point of the beta test that everyone gets the book that they paid for.
Excellent.
And I mean, we're already like we already cut like one of the stretch goals is what I call the classifieds. That will be a lot of content that we originally cut from the core rulebook. Um, because it's kind of like what I was surprised about that people complained about too many options. So we're gonna try like one of the reasons that we made Rising Tide was because like, dude, we love the lore, but it's so much. So that's why we kind of like slimmed down the lore in the core rulebook. So it basically has like all the greatest hits, so you understand the context of why things are the way they are. Um, because I mean, I am struggling. Like, should I market it as a steampunk role playing game, or should I market it as an association of Ishtar role playing game? Um, so that's also the reason why we do not have like an actual magic system. Like there are hints of that, and I kind of like hidden rules for magic in other parts of the book. Because this is an actual steampunk setting. This is not gas lamp fantasy, what most RPGs are they're not steampunk but gaslamp fantasy, or even worse, just fantasy with a steampunk skin. So this is actual alternate history science fiction with cosmic horror Lovecraftian elements. I prefer cosmic mystery because for me the mystery is more important than the horror. But there are definitely factions like that.
You say there's no magic system in this, and all of my players everywhere just all of a sudden went, I, I feel like the goat is really happy all of a sudden.
I mean, we have like rules. We've got skills for occult, but that's more because this is the 19th century. People were very big in the occult, and it's a very important theme. Especially when you're talking about steampunk, which is like one of the major things is like contradiction and change, and that desire for one hand you have got like the desire for progress, and other end there's also this kind of like nostalgia for like the old religions. And also, one other thing in this world is, I mean, in the 19th century is like the rise of pop culture. Like that's something that a lot of people overlook when they talk about steampunk. Like, why is steampunk the 19th century? And then they say, oh, it's because of steam engines. But no, it's because of the pop culture arose from that era. I could go on an entire rant on that, but let's not.
It sounds like an interesting rant for a future for a future discussion, though.
Yeah, no, I'd be happy to come back on to talk about that. But yeah,
Um, do we have any other questions from the chat, or do the panel have any questions for him about his game?
No questions, but I just want to I could go on just as much a rant about clock punk and how that compares to steampunk.
What is clockpunk? Let's start there.
It's a Renaissance version of steampunk. No steam, just the mechanical stuff, purely mechanical end. So I completely understand the not wanting to have so much magic in the thing and needing to draw on aspects that people aren't usually emphasizing in the genre. So I get it, man. I get it.
Bonsart has very strong feelings about how one defines steampunk.
I do, because one of the reasons that kind of like steampunk kind of slumped is because people do not want to have the conversation. First of all, the problem with steampunk is that it does not refer to one thing. So steampunk refers to a genre, it refers to an aesthetic, and it refers to a kind of a social costume community. And they sound very similar, but they're not the same, and their communities do not overlap. And that's kind of like where the problem with the term steampunk is that people are trying to make it this one thing. It's not one thing; it's three things, and that's like the first problem with the whole discussion around steampunk. So when people talk about steampunk, they usually mean the costume community, which is completely separate from which is far more gas lamp than it is the steampunk at this time, and that's kind of like the shame. And that's why, so like because I'm also working on a board game with a German company, and one of the reasons why the German company was interested in me, there was also a Chinese company. I need to contact them again, I just realized. But there's also a Chinese company that was interested, but one of the reasons was because of the aesthetics, and what's interesting about steampunk is like I have a very different take on the steampunk aesthetic than most, and yet people always say like, "Oh wow, now that is steampunk," and I find that very interesting. Why? And I can now, but yeah. Anyway,
I had to do some moving around. I didn't realize until just now that I apparently must have taken your screen down incorrectly and made the system unhappy. So, pardon the slight motion sickness for anyone watching. Um, I don't see any other questions. Josh, did you have any questions or just listening intently?
Just listening intently. I don't know if I have any questions. Bonzart did a good overview of the game and the setting and kind of the ideas behind it. I guess I lied. I have one question for you. What do you see the standard sort of adventure being that a storyteller, a dungeon master, a game master, whatever the term you use, would run their players through? What would be the event that they would be working through?
well, mostly that's because like everyone is so new with the system and how to tell. But like what we kind of like see with the playtest is first of all, like a lot of the playtest and reviewers, they did the first mission that we included in the core rulebook. We've included 3 missions there, and like the first thing they always mention is like the perk system. I'm surprised on how effective the perk system is, because like there were like things I put in there like getaway driver. And I was like, "Who's gonna pick Getaway Driver?" It's there because it's piloting. You want to do something cinematic. Okay, let's put Getaway Driver in there. And like the first game we did, somebody picked that perk and used it. Like, I mean, he used it for ridiculous things. But like every time there's like some moment where I'm like, gee, it would be very useful to have this very rather inconspicuous perk now and use that. And I also noticed, like, because I really went into this idea, like a lot of people are coming from D&D, they're used to dungeon crawling. And what I noticed is that a lot of people, they avoid combat. And I mean, combat can be quite lethal if you're not careful in the system. You're pretty you are very powerful, but also very vulnerable. Everyone is kind of like a glass cannon, um, as it were. So you can, like, especially when you have support weapons like machine guns, you can like mow down entire waves each turn. That's by design. But when you screw up, yeah, it could go very badly. Um, and Like one of the things that people just enjoy, especially about the perks, is just the amount of freedom. Because the perks are very specific in what they mean. Like one of the reasons why I made the perk that way was because like when I was GMing or when I was playing games, it was like, you've got like things like, oh, you're good at sneaking, you're good at, I don't know, stealth or something. And it was like very like, okay, but does this fall under this or does this fall under that? Should I now use this skill? Should I use that skill? And you're wasting all that time about debating that. And here we have, well, you've got the subterfuge skill, which means you are generally this good at anything stealth related. But then you have these perks that are very specific at what you can do with that subterfuge skill. So people are like, yeah, okay, I have high subterfuge, but I'm not in that terrain. So, I'll make it an unskilled skill check because, that's not what my character does. My type character is a smuggler, not a sneaker. So it helps, it gives players direction like, okay, it would be logical for my character to do this because I'm a smuggler, for instance. Um, and I think that just yeah, kind of like that wasting that time of endless discussions. And also with one other thing, and why I removed all the number crunching and all the positive bonuses, is when I was playing Shadowrun, for instance, as a GM, I would like, well, this is the challenge. So yeah, make a roll, and then my character, I had all these munchkins, and they would like hold a hand full with 25 dice and roll, and then you're like, well, what's even going on? What do I even do with this? It was impossible to manage the difficulty because well, 25 dice, there you go. It's like, oh. So, and that's why I'm like, okay, so the players have a lot of only the players roll in this system. That's why it goes so quickly. Um, but the GM has full control over the difficulty at any time, and that makes it very easy for the GM to manage, and it makes it very easy for the players because they don't like the only positive thing that we have. The only modifier is armor, and even that I constantly forget to apply. Uh, so
You have another question in the chat. I've seen so many groups now into heavy into miniatures and creative 3D playsets. Is it required? Can this game? I assume you mean this game be played simply with pen and paper.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, we've done a lot of play with the mind, and the perk system is perfectly suited for that. So, but the option is there. So
So
you
there,
could basically do a kind of like large scale skirmish game with that. That's pretty fast to play, quite frankly.
so they're add-ons,
Yeah, they're not
not not
mandatory.
not critical. Okay,
Yeah, they're
awesome.
not. No.
Extras we like. Umpteen million pieces. I'm just gonna lose.
And they're beautiful minis. So yeah, and they're not like the standard cultists, where you've got a guy in a cloak with a dagger. Yeah, our cultists actually have some personality. So
Awesome. All right. So
What
we are
with
gonna move.
personality? Interesting.
We're going to move on just to make sure that everyone gets their full allotted time. But if anyone has any questions for Bonsart later, please put them in the Discord. And Josh.
Hi again for folks who weren't here at the beginning. I'm Josh Heath, High Level Games. We, as a company, kind of got our start doing support for community content creators who were looking to make content for other games that are already out there, particularly for the Storyteller's Vault. For folks who are unfamiliar with the Storyteller's Vault, it's the World of Darkness community content program. And I really got my start in the World of Darkness and in Vampire the Masquerade. I did a podcast on Werewolf the Apocalypse for years called Werewolf the Podcast. I'm also one of the co-hosts for a podcast called Mage the Podcast, which is about Mage the Ascension. So For World of Darkness fans, I've been around, did some writing for Onyx Path Publishing and for the newest iteration of White Wolf. In that I wrote the style guides for the Storyteller's Vault for them, for Mage and for Wraith, actually, for people that like playing ghosts. All of that background to say, I've written a lot of different things in the industry. I've done some D&D related stuff. I won an Ennie for my work on Big Bad booklets for Hit Point Press, which was a cool project where we wrote a bunch of villains. I wrote up a exalted owlbear, an owlbear that was becoming a godling, which to me was one of the coolest things I think I've ever written, as well as a sentient evil tree with a fungal infection. Called Karsus, and the fungus was actually eating his magic. So those were the two villains that I wrote for them, and that was a ton of fun. But I've also done an outrageous amount of community content. I've got probably over 100 booklets on the Storyteller's Vault for various games in the World of Darkness. I've done stuff for Onyx Path Publishing's community content. I've done a little bit for Savage Worlds. High Level Games is an ace. So we've done a mess of different things, right? Adventures, a few one-page adventures that we did, and we worked on a game called Archons of Nykud, or a setting, I should say, for Savage Worlds called Archons of Nykud, where you play various animal people in a semi-sci-fi fantasy setting. As well as, and I'll go back to Bonzart's comments about what's steampunk and what's not. We did a semi-steampunk setting called Snowhaven. And instead of calling it steampunk, we called it snowpunk, right? Because it had a little bit of steampunk aesthetic and sort of attitude toward it. But it was set in a frozen wasteland where you could play as Yeti people. So it wasn't quite steampunk, and I definitely recognize that. So we tried to coin another term, and we didn't want to steal frostpunk. Someone already had trademarked that. And then we made a game called Army Men.
Well, to be honest, Frostpunk is probably one of the most steampunk games out there. So
totally. And we made a game called Army Men most recently. And Army Men is where you play plastic army people in a plastic army world. And you can play it as seriously or as silly as you want to. Like the setting could be in your backyard as a kid, or you could be asking questions like, why is my gun made out of the same material that I am made out of? And deal with those sorts of existential military.
Out of meat, don't you know?
Is that the game that was on here before?
I don't think I have been on here before to talk about Army Men. Did I?
Don't think you have. No. I don't think you were either, but I think someone was.
Maybe was Neil on here? Was Neil Litherland? Because he was the main writer for Army Men.
Yep,
there we
go. I was like, wait a minute, this sounds so familiar.
Yeah.
And Onyx.
I think I've spoken to him a couple of times. In fact, yeah.
Onyx Path Publishing also did Curseborn, and one of the heads of that project has also been on here. So
nice. Yeah, Curseborn is a cool game.
It's a very small industry.
Totally. Yeah, so that's kind of like a range of background stuff. Just to say, I've done a lot of different genres, a lot of different games. And about 2 years ago, I started a thought experiment going, what would a vampire game that I would want today be like? I kind of got uncomfortable with the underlying context of vampires having to steal blood from people. That started to make me personally uncomfortable. And so I was like, okay, what did I like about vampire games as a genre? What things would I do to fix that personally? What would make me more comfortable playing a vampire game? And I said, well, what if vampires had to be invited, right? They have to be invited into a house. What if they have to be given permission to feed? What would vampires be like if they had that restriction? And I wrote down notes of about 2,000, 3,000 words where I was like, this would be a cool concept and maybe I'll do something with it. And then October of this year, I started working with a designer called Alison Seib. And Alison's based in the UK. They've worked on Star Trek Adventures. They've worked on a game called Sentience. They worked on Fallout, the RPG. There's a whole bunch of other things, as well as they worked on Vampire the Masquerade for Paradox Publishing. So there's a lot of stuff that they've been involved in. And together we wrote this game, right? Which is May I Enter, a vampire game. And it sets up this world where vampires exist, but they are bound by this magical ritual that Helen of Troy and other vampires enacted at the end of the Trojan War. And so vampires since then have been bound by these various rules, including things like, they have to, all the classic mythological vampire restrictions, like they can't cross running water, they have to be invited into a house. If you dump a bunch of rice on the ground, they have to stop and count it. All of these things are the bindings that have magically been enforced onto vampires, right? Including the restriction that they have to have permission to feed on people. So in that world, you're going to have a very small population of vampires, right? Who are capable of meeting people and building relationships with them and convincing them, hey, I would like to take some of your blood or energy or whatever it is that you feed on as a vampire. It doesn't have to be blood per se. It can be Colin Robinson from What We Do in the Shadows, right? They could just steal energy from people, and that's totally okay, right? So that's the kind of like the thematic basis for this game, is that you are these vampires who have these restrictions, and you have to get permission from your various NPCs to not work around them, but kind of have access to various what we call privileges or powers that you are granted with the active consent of these NPCs. So you can, earn the power to fly, or go into places of worship, or cross over rivers from these various privileges that these NPCs ultimately grant you. And it's powered by the Apocalypse game system. So it uses 2d6. It's loosely similar to games like Urban Shadows or Avatar: The Last Airbender, or things. There are lots of different powered by the Apocalypse games, including Apocalypse World, which is the source of the system. But that 2d6 system is pretty simple to pick up. It's based on a series of moves that are pretty cinematic. And so I've been rambling for a bit. I don't know if there are any questions. I see a question in the chat, so let me answer that. What would happen if a vampire tried to feed without permission? Are they physically unable, or is there some type of punishment for doing so? So, yes, vampires are magically prevented from feeding without permission. If an NPC says no, they are magically incapable of feeding on that person. You have to do so with their permission. There are ways that are really bad for you to work around permission, called breaking consent. But when you do that, you've basically set up your character to magically be ostracized for doing so. And you're going to struggle to recover from that action. We've set it up so that makes sense occasionally if you need to save somebody or you need to do a specific action and you need to have access to a privilege you don't usually have. But from the feeding part of it, if you try and do that, you're pretty much right on the road to being dust for having, attempted to break that sort of system.
So basically, vampires don't get free will in this game.
Vampires are definitely restricted. They certainly have the ability to enact change on the world, but they can't harm people specifically. So they do have free will. You can go wherever you would like to within the restrictions of the bindings, but you have to live within those restrictions, right? So is it free will? Yes. Are there like restrictions to that, similar to how the real world, the restrictions that we live in on our free will? Yes. Is it a little bit stronger than that? Yes.
But I was going to say, like, I can harm someone, I'll have consequences, but I can physically do it. There isn't,
Sure.
which is why I was, oh, I'm being told I'm very quiet. I do not know how to fix that, Blaze, sorry. But it sounds like that they are literally unable to actually take those actions.
Correct. As long as it's against another human being, right? Or if it's another supernatural, you are not restricted by that, right? And there are other supernatural beings in the world. There are other vampires. There are the Fae. There are other things that go bump in the night, right? That you generally see as adversaries, that are adversaries for you. And those things you don't have those same restrictions against. So you don't have those same restrictions against animals either. So there's nothing stopping you, in theory, from potentially feeding on goats or something like that if you wanted to, just to bring it back. But against humans, yes, you are definitely restricted from harming them unless you have gained some way to do so, or set up a thing, an action where harm would come to them. But again, thematically, that runs kind of counter to the point of where the story is trying to take you.
I have noticed a couple questions in the chat, and I've got a similar one. How into the weeds did you get with vampire lore? Because there's a whole bunch of some places go, oh, what about grains of rice? Like they're compelled to count grains of rice, or there's a really old one about a rose on the coffin stops the vampire from opening a coffin, and all those sorts of like really niche things. How into the weeds did you go with that sort of stuff?
We went pretty into the weeds, but we didn't go with the rose and the coffin one. We don't have an explicit staking mechanic, right? There's lots of myths about if you put an iron stake in the vampire's heart in the coffin, right, they're not going to be able to come out of it. We didn't go that far, but we did go with like places of worship. Vampires can't go into a church without having gained the privilege to do that by building a relationship with a specific NPC. It's funny because the rice thing, people don't necessarily realize, but Count Von Count from Sesame Street is based on that myth of vampires having to count things. And to me, that's the funniest thing in the world, right? Like someone was like, oh, vampires, oh, they have to count things. I'm going to make them a Muppet, right? But there are lots of things like that that make up these bindings, right? They're most of the larger traditional restrictions that vampires have, like not being able to go out in the sun. There's others that I'm forgetting. But there's about 10 of those bindings that vampires have to deal with.
You also have a question. When it comes to vampires, if a vampire drinks blood from a drunk alcoholic, do they get drunk or become an alcoholic too?
I wouldn't say they necessarily become an alcoholic. It's a good question that we don't actually address in the rule book. Like, if you feed off of someone who is high or inebriated, does that have any effect? I would say with the way the game is set up, that's set up for the narrator to really make that call. I personally find that fascinating, right? If you drink blood from someone and then you are drunk, how does that impact you? I definitely think that's an interesting effect to have to deal with. But one of the core gameplay elements for us is also this, besides the vampire politics stuff on the surface, are these ancient vaults from an ancient vampire civilization, a la Castlevania or Vampire Hunter D, right? There are this ancient vampire civilization has left these remnants, right? And so as part of the play experience is kind of this old school Renaissance dungeon crawly element where you have to get to these vaults before other people get to them because there's powerful artifacts in them. There are these things that are left there that may be high magic, right? Maybe highly scientific artifacts that are there, but they're from thousands and thousands of years ago, right? One of my favorite NPCs is called the Ancient, and he's literally a pre-Homo sapiens vampire. He's an Australopithecus who became a vampire hundreds of thousands of years ago, and he happens to be one of the few of those particularly ancient vampires who's still around. But he is active, he is in the world, and he's someone that you can interact with.
So he existed before this magical restraint on vampires.
Correct.
I wonder how he's adapting to that.
Well, that's one of the key questions, right? We
Did he
set it up.
participate?
So he participated in the ritual. Him and Helen of Troy and a vampire called Durge were all involved in this ritual, right? There may be other vampires as well. It's kind of left to the narrator to decide were there others involved. So he actively chose to take these bindings onto himself. And other vampires didn't, though. They didn't get to make that choice. And so some of them, who we call the originalists, are vampires who are very upset that they have been bound this way. And they are not player options, but they are an adversary group who are actively trying to bring about the end of the binding and to free themselves.
That would totally be me.
Fair enough.
I have the whole John Locke thing. Don't tell me what I can't do.
Fair enough. And there are other vampires too, the primordials, who are these ancient vampires from this ancient vampire civilization who never were bound, who were so powerful they were like, thanks, Helen, no. Right? And so they're out there being these scary monster beings, possibly living in their own vaults. And they act as a foil to this idea of you are a vampire who has to be bound. Wait, these monsters were not. Is there a way around that? Should I look for that or not? It's a question that players can definitely argue about and interact with as a concept.
Okay. So there was a comment that said Rain Man Vampire gets around the counting. All right. Do we have any other questions from the panel or the chat? Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Other than, have you already heard of Hunter the Parenting?
Hunter the Parenting. Not specifically. No, this is the first time I've heard of it.
Look it up on YouTube.
Yeah.
It's a kind of like animated podcast about Hunter the Reckoning by the people who originally made If the Emperor had a text-to-speech device.
Cool. That is definitely something I'll check out. Thank you for recommending it.
Again, if anybody has... Yes, there's the Kickstarter. If anybody has any questions, Josh will also be on the Discord, so please get in touch with him and he can answer those there. All right. And Atlas, who, in case I hadn't actually mentioned it to the chat, now holds the record for the longest time difference between me and him, since it is... What time is it there?
It has just turned 9 a.m.
On Thursday.
Yes.
Correct? Yeah. So
Yes.
first person that it's been bright and early and, fresh with the coffee.
Well, tea, but yes. Yeah. Oddly, the flavour is Australian afternoon, despite it being morning for me.
Okay. So is it pronounced... I have been probably pronouncing this wrong. Is it the Brachyr system?
Brachyr.
Oh, yeah. There's too much subtlety there. I can't do that.
Yeah, no, that's completely fair. Completely fair. At least it's not the Brachyr system.
All right. Well, please take it away.
um, well, like as I said, I started this as its own setting for originally D&D 3.5, and as it got over time, it ballooned in terms of like setting concept and what I wanted to do in the setting outside of what that could handle at all. So I moved into making its own thing. And so yeah, it's I'm not great with like talking about things. I do have a list of stuff I want to say, but I'll just try to get into the system and hopefully ball will be rolling. Well, setting it's like it's
Let us know
not.
how we can help.
I appreciate that. I think the best thing I've been the best comparison I've heard from it is that it follows a similar concept of Discworld in that it doesn't follow our world's logic, but it is consistent to its own logic. It's a flat Earth style world, so it's not a planet in space. It's a flat Earth that is the meeting of four elemental planes: air, which is also the plane of thought; earth, which is also the plane of sound; water, which is also contrast; and fire, which is also order. And where they overlap is this world of Nazvin. And because it's a large flat Earth world, there is no real horizon. Things just get smaller. And so the big mountain in the middle of the world is what everyone considers north, because that's just what you can see from just about everywhere. It's The world is massive. I'm currently working on the. I shouldn't be currently working on the world map and the navigation supplement rules, because it's not all the rules in the first book, in the core book. I wanted to do that, I really did, and then during playtesting, everyone got overwhelmed by so many rules, as I'm sure Bonsart recognizes. It was just there was so many options people couldn't, and so I had to cut it down, and I'm coming out with supplements afterwards to expand on subsections of the rules. Back to actually the world. I'm sorry, it's all over the place in brain. Um, a thing that a lot of people are thrown off by at the very start is that day and night, it doesn't work like in our world. There is no sun. It's just the sky gets brighter and darker, warmer and colder, depending on the pulses of energy through the plane of fire. And as it gets brighter over the course of the day, it also does that sort of thing over the course of a year. Brighter months are just overall brighter, and colder months are overall darker and colder. So, like, the peak of winter is the darkest physical day, and the peak of summer is also the brightest night. You can have midnight on the summer solstice is as bright as midday on the winter solstice. And midday on the summer solstice, it is so hot that there is a sheet of fire through the sky, as if it were the clouds. It's just there is a rolling sheet of fire up there. Don't go too high up.
So we have some Icarus theory built in here.
Oh,
Don't
I've drawn from
don't
so
fly too
many
high.
stuff.
Don't fly
Yeah,
too
don't
high.
fly too high, but you're okay in some of the Sky Island cities. There's Sky Islands everywhere in a crisscrossing braided sort of fashion throughout the world. There is a nation that exists only on the Sky Islands, but they don't claim any islands that are over other land because they don't want to get in any level of territorial dispute. Yeah, absolutely, it is insane. I think most of that is because the magic for the world is derived from an ever-present sea of soul. Like this, everyone's soul goes into a sea, and that sea permeates everything. And what the sea believes should be real, and that is what magic is. And the various kinds of magic systems in the world are just the different ways various cultures have tried to figure out how to exploit or convince the sea of various things. You'll have the people who are focused on math and science trying to exploit the sequence of how things work and get everything to line up and force the sea into creating an effect, while there are others who are just creating their own experiences and tricking the sea into going, okay, so this collection of stuff all related to fire is probably going to explode when that person throws it. So when they throw it, it explodes.
So it's almost
Just because that's what the sea expects.
probability based magic for the magicians and bard based magic for the the people who are into
For the
tricking you into
alchemists and the
things.
bards, yeah, absolutely. And it's
Legatus just
yeah,
wants to know, just wanted clarification. So this was a setting that morphed into its own gaming system.
yes, yeah. There was a point where I got to the state where the system that I was trying for couldn't handle it. I looked for other systems that could, nothing could. So I was like, okay, back to scratch. What do I know about the setting, and I'll build a system from that. And the things I knew about the setting were the magic, and most importantly, that for the world, the main premise of how civilization works in this world is everything boils down to people working together, people using tools, and people having some way to communicate. And those three pillars form civilization and protect people from the wilderness. And so that's what created the world and the mechanics of the system. Because that's the system. I don't know if I've seen any other system exactly like it, but what Bonsart was talking about does have some similarities. Mechanically, it's just you have 3 dice. It's a classless system. The base die is a d8. You roll that to do whatever you need to do. You add your skill modifier. Your skill modifier is just there is a skill. You pick any number of perks or abilities in that skill, and your number of perks is your modifier. And the perks change what your skill can be used for, or how it adjusts your capacity. Um, yeah, and in addition to your modifier, when you roll a check, you add any applicable tool die you're using. One tool die, whatever's the best one. If you're swinging a sword for your sword attack, you're using the sword's tool die. If you're trying to climb a cliff face, you're probably using a climbing kit's tool die as your tool. And then someone can help you and apply their tool die as an aid die to you. And you get that benefit as well. And it's only ever rolling 3 dice. The size of dice for tool and aid depends on how good the thing is that's helping you out.
We have another
That's
question.
the basic mechanic.
When
Oh,
D&D Spelljammer came out, we made each setting its own world, or they were their own supercontinents on a super Earth. Can your system allow for such, or is it an enclosed setting / system?
it is its own enclosed setting. I didn't want to make a kitchen sink setting, because that's every time a kitchen sink shows up, it doesn't feel as inclusive as it's trying to be. You want to do all these things, and then nothing seems to mesh properly at the end of the day. And so I just wanted to keep it stuck to the setting itself. In my case, I do have like the standard fantasy races, species, whatever you want to call them. My system calls them species, but they're not named the normal things. So instead of having elves, we have a race of kangaroo people that are one of the oldest species. Of course, they're kangaroo people. I'm Australian. We've got gorilla folk that are almost just gorillas that are able to speak other languages. We've got a group of a very diverse species of rodent people. They're they were originally goblins, and then they've morphed into this concept that people have represented their characters as squirrels, capybaras, rats, like the rodent kind of creature, but a bit bigger. And there's a fungus species, so if you want to play a character that's very much not a normal species shape, you
You
can
can play
just play
mushrooms.
you can play mushrooms, be they walking in humanoid shape or looking absolutely bizarre, nothing like any other species. Someone I know during the playtest defined their character as effectively like a tumbleweed of mushroom, and that's completely in suiting the setting and everything because they are grown from a mycelium and just left and sent out to do their thing, hopefully bring back food for the mycelium net.
That is interesting.
uh, yes, at least my head's all over the place, and that's what makes it difficult to write about this place or finish up anything because I want to bring in all this stuff from all over the setting and all over the world. I want to comment on the vampires for this setting, which are different, but then that's how I can describe all my stuff.
It's really nice to see something that's so different. I mean, there is a tendency. I think this is the first time where someone like hasn't got spent most of their description saying here's how my game is like 5e.
Oh no.
Um, and it's Blaze says capybaras. Um,
Yeah.
so it's really nice to like have that kind of difference instead of I was talking with someone else earlier today about fantasy games tend to have very similar classes and very similar races that have just been kind of assigned different names, and you might get
Yeah.
one that's a little different that's thrown in there, but that doesn't you still have all the same basics.
Yeah,
So it's really
it's
cool to
a
see something so different.
I've not seen anyone have a problem with it as a beginner friendly setting. And yes, Groot would fit perfectly. The players that I've introduced to it haven't had any problems getting into the whole concept. The only problem after the whole there are too many options thing was that it's a classless system, and some people who are used to class based systems get very confused in that sort of situation. And because everything in this system is skills, your combat abilities are like your weapons are skills, your defenses are skills, debate is based off the same sort of skill system as combat. I decided to have it so the various species are also their own little skill trees. You can progress your gorilla folk skill or your rat folk skill to highlight how you are an archetype or you're stereotypical for your group, and that functions as kind of a pseudo class. You build into that, and it just guides you into learning the system and the setting a little more because you don't have to worry about how am I going to diversify or actually build a usable character.
Let me
And
clarify a little bit. Is easy to get into for people who have gamed before? What about people who have never gamed before?
I haven't actually gotten to run it for anyone who hasn't gamed before, unfortunately. Um,
Um,
yeah, that's
we
that's
have
the only downside I've encountered. But then I've been working on this thing basically on my own.
we um we have kind of adopted the theory of the real life fake wizard, which is that the largest audience we have to pull people away from the company that shall not be named for gaming is people who have never gamed before ever. Um,
Yes,
so this is one of the
no,
reasons
absolutely.
this question comes up a lot is how hard would it be to introduce people who've never gamed at all?
Well, like I'm a completely unrelated. I'm a paid GM. I run I run systems other than that one, like explicitly other than that one. And I have introduced, I think, 20 people to games like Pathfinder 1, Powered by the Apocalypse, Fate, Cthulhu Tech, Scion, first or second edition, all that sort of stuff. And I've personally never had a problem getting people into any system. And of the people I have introduced to systems like that, those ones that I've also introduced to this, no one's had a problem getting into it. But then it might just be how I introduce people to it, how I build into a system.
So Natty says, I'm very, very beginning. I played Tiny D10 with my 5 and 4-year-old on a Candyland board because it kind of worked that way. No idea what happened, but we won maybe. I'm that kind of beginning.
Okay, that is beginning. Yes.
That's
I'd
great, though.
love to. Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to know how someone like that experiences this. It shouldn't be too difficult of a system to learn. The setting's its own can of worms. I got a question here. Since you have plant-based species, does this cover environmental issues? How might they have weaknesses to fire, pesticides, etc.? So they technically aren't plants, they are fungus. But yes, they do get effects where they can suffer more from fire, but it gives them the ability to like spread out a bit more. Pesticides are usually, when it comes down to like wars, is a pesticide used. But most of the people in setting don't really use like chemical pesticides because there are kinds of magic, and some of the kinds of magic have access to pest uh, discouragement rather than actually killing things. Yes,
So it would be sort of
environmental issues
considered.
are.
It would be
Hmm?
considered kind of chemical warfare in order to be using it.
Yes, yeah,
Got it.
it really would be. Any kind of pesticide would be chemical warfare because there are other species, and those species interact with things differently to how everyone else does. One of the better species at dealing with poisons is humans, but that's because humans just love trying
We
our hand at anything.
we poison ourselves intentionally for fun on occasion. So
Recreationally, yeah, absolutely.
yeah. So which brings me to my question. Is the system easier to get into if you are in fact in an altered state? Because it sounds like it might be easier to just come up with the weirdness is necessary.
I have never been in an altered state.
Doesn't mean some people I think just are that creative naturally.
Fair.
I was thinking.
Um, I have played with someone who was drunk at the time. There is no difference in how easily they got into it with or without the alcohol. That's
So
about it.
nobody has ever had a hard time wrapping their mind around this world where there's no sun and
Oh
things are
no,
flat.
I did have
And
someone who had a meltdown about the idea of like the fire in the sky and how that doesn't make sense with physics. And I'm like, this is not our world, mate.
our physics do not
Understand that
apply
this
here.
correct.
And there are no cats, which is why nothing has been knocked off the edge of the world yet.
Oh, there is no edge. Once you get outside of where the continents are, it's just ocean. Constant ocean at the borderline of the plane of water and the plane of air.
I mean, I feel like there are still cats that would knock things into the ocean.
Oh, absolutely. there are always cats. There's always cats. Do the
Um,
fungus forms also worry about the seasons and the weather? Uh, Not explicitly mechanically yet, but that is an intention soon. Because I've put out a bunch of supplements. I've put out like an expansion for unarmed combat, an expansion for deceit and education, and a whole bunch of like the social combat stuff. Because social combat just works the exact same way as combat, just with a different set of skills. And I'm putting out one for navigation. And when I get around to like surviving in the wild, that will absolutely be in there. And yes, the world is a pirate's paradise. It's massive.
Would you consider this a crunchy game? It sounds like it's crunchy.
Crunchy is a weirdly soft term I've found, because some people will describe something like D&D 3 as crunchy, and other people will say it's not crunchy enough. Some people will say
it's
Scion
definitely in
1
the
is
middle of the gradient.
Yeah, exactly. So like
On a scale of 1 to 10, how crunchy would you?
again, I don't know. I can express the whole way the mechanics work. There's your base die. There's at most 2 other dice and your modifier, and all DCs are just 5 times however many things make it more complicated. You're wanting to climb a cliff, okay? Is the cliff well suited to climbing? No? Oh well, that's a complication. Is it slippery? Is there currently violent motion? With all that, it's DC 15. Moving on.
Okay, nice. So I have some questions for you off Discord.
Oh dear. Yep.
What core principle was missing in other systems that pushed you to create a new one?
Teamwork. In a whole bunch of other systems, well, other than like the 9 different kinds of magic that no system could handle, in a whole bunch of other systems, teamwork is always a choice between helping someone else and contributing to the scene. You can do your own thing to fight the enemy, or make an argument, or discuss with the shopkeep, or whatever the situation happens to be, or you can help your ally. But that's not a thing in this, because it's you can do that, and you also have the dedicated option to always be helping someone else. You are a part of your team, not apart from your team.
Okay, I think I am actually more confused with that answer than I thought I was beforehand.
That's
So
fair. That's fair.
so
Uh,
can you give a different example? Because
okay.
I mean
Easiest example.
I have always thought of teamwork as being part of pretty much every RPG.
Yeah. No. Exactly. Like it's supposed to be, but like the best example for me personally, because I run run Pathfinder for work all the time, is the various Pathfinder versions, where in a fight, for instance, you have your actions, you have movement. You can spend an action boosting an ally's attack or boosting their defense or something, but then you're not contributing to damage in the scene, and everyone sees that situation and goes, well, why would I help when I can just do damage? And this system doesn't make that a choice, because it's always its own separate thing. You are able to help someone.
Okay, so you basically have a separate action that's
Yes.
specific. Okay, got it. All right, I understand now.
Yeah.
How tied are setting and system? Oh, sorry, this is a two-part question. How tied are setting and system? Is it possible to use the setting with another system like GURPS?
It's technically possible to use the setting with another system like GURPS, but you would have to agree to throw away certain subsystems, or like there are 9 magic systems, and the 9 magic systems work differently. They behave differently, but all work within the bounds of the mechanics in their own unique ways. And I've not seen another system, even GURPS, able to handle that specifically.
Hmm.
You've got a kind of magic that is my training of doing things can affect my physical attributes. There's my training is allowing me to convince magic that this effect should be occurring on somebody else. Or I have convinced myself so heavily of a thing that thing is true to an extent, or myself and a whole bunch of people, so that it's true. That does cause problems. That's why one of the species has such a long history of being slaves in setting, because so many people just expect them to be slaves. So the magic's like, yep, okay, you're a slave. There's
So it's hard to get things started, but then that once the truck is rolling, it's hard to stop it too.
Yeah, exactly, yes. And there's a magic system that is, I work with a soul inside a wand I constructed to create magic, or I convince the fleeting like microscopic version of a soul in a gemstone to do magic, but the gemstone only has a soul because so many people think that they should because they're pretty. Or I craft an experience into this item to trick magic into doing a thing because it expects something to happen. Or I perform all the right math to get an effect to occur. Or I design a structure or layout of an area so that the flow of magic through this area reflects something historically, and the magic creates an effect similar to how one might think of feng shui. So, like, I've not seen a system able to handle all of those cohesively.
I am almost willing to put money that within a week, someone who is an absolute GURPS fanatic is going to have like a comment on this video.
I welcome it. I'd love to, because it gives me something to bounce ideas off of.
Now, it may be, yes, he's right, GURPS can't do that, but I have met a number of GURPS people that are convinced GURPS can do everything. So it'll be
Yeah.
interesting to see what they come up with. How accessible is the game for players or GMs with so many magic systems?
It's actually great, because even if you ignore the magic systems, you can learn how they work because they share mechanics with other skills. For example, the same mechanic for building complicated architectural magical effects is mirrored in how the climbing mechanics work, but it's less complicated from the climbing side. And as you get more used to that, the building one will eventually get more coherent for you. And you don't have to build into any of the magic systems to be able to use them. In a game I'm running of it, like as an ongoing thing, one of the players before a previous boss fight went, "Hey, can we just try making some alchemical things to help us out in this boss fight? Because these things we could do without training." Okay, we'll give that a moment. And yeah, they got into it. No one had any training in it. They just saw that it might be useful, gave it a go, and now one of the players is considering might build into that. So like the system it's designed such that you don't have to, but over time, hopefully you get used to the idea that, yeah, it might be worth giving it a go.
Okay, and the last question they had, what is the expected power level / progression of player characters?
Oh boy. You don't need to be fully focused on a single like concept. Like, well, you don't have to be like, it's not a class based system, so I can't say that, oh yeah, every character will be this good at combat. You will get someone at character creation who is insanely potent in combat, and everyone else just kind of sucks and they've gone doing other things, social stuff, exploration based stuff. And then if you get in a fight, everyone needs to keep in mind that if you can't do anything good in a fight, you can still help the guy who is good in a fight. And his job is to keep you alive so you can keep helping him. So like the people are as like the progression is you get better at what you're good at, and you over time get more used to helping people in areas that you aren't particularly good at. I'm not good in this circumstance. but I can still help the guy who is. I can still make myself useful in this scene.
So, you know, the real world if it were perfect and people were better.
Yeah, let's not go into politics, eh?
Oh, I wasn't talking politics. I was just talking,
I
general
know, I know.
general scheme of things.
Yeah,
Um,
I
as opposed to I am so wound up doing my own thing that it never occurs to me I might be able to help someone else.
that was actually a concern I had during early playtesting, that people would end up being like that, but no. Every time I've run this system, people have very easily and like smoothly adapted to the concept of helping each other out. It's not been something I've needed to emphasize at any step. People have just slotted into it very quickly.
Have you run entirely with Australians?
No, I've run the game I run consistently is with Australians, but a lot of the playtesting was Australians, Americans, a couple Germans, a Frenchman, and some British folk.
I mean, the fact that they didn't spend the whole time making fun of the Frenchmen is just, automatically a great sign. It's it is an ongoing it is an ongoing joke in my state that there are so many jokes about the French, considering that all of us are in fact descended from the French.
Yeah, I'm sorry that it's all over the shop, me talking about it, but it's just the
No,
brain doesn't want to streamline it because it's a massive web in there.
I think you've done a great job. You've been able to answer everybody's questions. So, um, okay. Do we have any other questions from the panel? Do we have any questions from the chat?
I have one
Right.
question. Have
Sure.
you? This is for Atlas. Have you played Invisible Sun?
I
I've
have
heard of it.
not. I do remember reading it at one point.
Okay, I'm just
Why?
saying your setting to me feels like it would work. It would fit in the oeuvre of Invisible Sun very well. Um, just there, similar surreal
Okay,
sort of
I'll give it
elements.
another read.
Yeah,
It is very cool to have something so different, though. It's very awesome.
definitely.
Um, so Eraserhead is reminding us, for those of you who are unfamiliar, a friend of the channel, Jacob Ironsides, has to move. He luckily has been allowed to stay in his current location until next month. He has some medical issues. He lives with his parents, who are both quite elderly. They also have medical issues. They can't just kind of take any place to live, and they're struggling a little bit. So we are trying very hard to help out. And I do want to say, I don't think I have said for several weeks that I have been incredibly humbled and honored to be part of a community that has done so much for someone that we have never met in real life. But Jacob is really a wonderful person, and I'm really glad that everyone has stepped up to give him a hand. So, if you have not yet donated, even $5 helps. If you have, please forward it, send it to other people who might be able to forward or to donate, and let's see if we can help find him a safe place to live. And we're going to have plenty of time tonight for everyone to be able to plug their stuff, which makes me really happy. I sometimes feel like I'm rushing people out the door. Bonsard, if you want to tell us when your Kickstarter starts and all the other things that we need to know about where you are, what you're doing, and where people can find you.
I'm trying to launch it next week. I depends on a couple of things, but I hope next week. Yeah, where else can people find me? I have a YouTube channel called Radio Retro Future. You can also find all kinds of lore videos on there. Honor University Association of Ishtar. You can find my books on Amazon. The 3D miniatures are gonna be for sale on various locations, apart from Kickstarter, very soon, but they'll be the cheapest on the Kickstarter in the first 48 hours. And I've got loads of other content as well. So including a lot of short stories that are freely available online through my Ream page. Um, and of course, we've got our own Discord community that is starting to become more and more active, where we talk a lot about steampunk and, of course, our own role playing system, where I also give writing workshops from time to time. And we do 2 playtests a week now, quite consistently. So, you are free to join that until the game goes into closed beta after the Kickstarter launch.
Okay. Eraserhead, do we have the Discord too, by any chance?
I shared it once in the chat, but I can post it again.
Pardon the awkward silence while we. I mean, not to
It's
jinx
not
us, because
awkward
we.
silence, it's human.
Not to jinx us, because we still have 20 minutes left, but we have managed to not have technical difficulties up the wazoo so far. So this is the last couple weeks EV Mux has been kind of rough. So I'm really happy things have gone well. I'm not sure you can post links. You may have to send it to me in private chat, and then I'll get it out there.
Through Discord?
Either way, either the private chat here or through Discord, I can get them either way.
Well, let me see how that works. Okay.
There we go. Got it. All right, there we go. Okay. Thank you very much for coming. And Josh, where can we find you? What events have you got coming up? And you also
Yep.
have a Kickstarter starting, so when will that take place?
Yes. So the Kickstarter should be going live between May 31st and June 6th. I gave myself that week because work, I'll just say, my day job is crazy right now. So things may impact when I actually launch, but it will definitely be between May 31st and June 6th. You can find more stuff by me on highlevelgames.ca. Yes, we're Canadian. I'm sorry. Um, and that said, I actually live in the greater DC metro area, but my business partner is in Canada, so I always like to make that joke. You can also find most of my stuff on Drive-Through RPG if you search for Josh Heath or Joshua Heath. It has not been consistent in how I have credited myself or how other people have credited me, but you can find a lot of the stuff that I've worked on there. And you can also listen to me if you want to on podcasts like Werewolf the Podcast, Mage the Podcast, and Opcast, Arms Around the Trinity Continuum. So if those are games that you're interested in, there are hundreds of episodes of each of those for you to dig into if you want to hear me babble more and more about different things, particularly about werewolves and mages and superheroes in various sci-fi settings. Let's see.
Where are those? Where can those be found?
On any podcasting podcatcher that you use, if you look up any of them, Mage the Podcast has a website called magethepodcast.com, or Werewolf the Podcast. If you just Google them, you should be able to find them. And the last one is Opcast, OPcast, Arms Around the Trinity Continuum, for folks that are interested in that game system. I'm also on Blue Sky and as High Level Games, and YouTube as High Level Games, though we haven't posted a whole lot recently on our YouTube. We are out there on various places if you look up High Level Games. So I think I'm out of promotions. I don't know where else to promote me. So that's all
All
you got.
right. Well, thank you very much. And Atlas, where can we find you? What do you got for
Uh,
events? When
you can
when are
you
you?
can find my stuff on Drive Through RPG and itch.io. It's just the Brachyr system. The only reason a bunch of them have prices is because I've been bullied into charging for stuff. But most of the stuff I post is on Blue Sky. I did send you my Blue Sky at on Discord because I don't have access to it on the laptop. So, but yeah, just Drive Through RPG and itch.io and Blue Sky for chatting and seeing me lose my mind about the weirdness of my own setting.
Okay. Um, let's see. This must be what I'm looking for. Thank you, Eraserhead. Um, I do not see any. Oh, never mind. I think I just found it.
It's just after
I was
breakfast.
I was looking in the wrong spot for your blue sky thing, so hence
Uh huh.
hence my confusion. Too many things open at the same time.
That's always how it ends up being.
Yes, of course. Um, okay, so once again, I want to thank my panelists. You have been fabulous, and the chat is always fabulous. Thank you very much to Legatus and Eraserhead for their modding. I really appreciate it. I mentioned at the beginning of the stream that I am looking at making some changes to how this channel works. So I would really appreciate it if everyone would go to the poll I've put up. There are going to be several polls over the next few days, but today's is probably one of the most important. Eraserhead has pinned it to the general chat in the Herd Discord. So if everyone could please, 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 please go and leave an answer to that, I would really appreciate it. We have over 100 Herd members now, and I have 4 votes. So I'd really like to get those voting numbers up. Um, I am looking for suggestions too as to how things might get changed. So please also leave comments if I've missed something in the poll, or if you want to, like, one of the options is maybe I will change the time of this show. If you say yes, you should change the time, I need to know when you think it should be changed to, because just saying yes, you should change the time doesn't help me very much. Um, I'm sure that at 3 a.m. is not, probably going to work for most people. So, I am the Eclectic Goat. I am here. I am on Discord and Twitter under the same name. And I am still currently working on my history of zombie movies. It's been great. I have found some very underrated hidden gems in the zombie genre, and I've found some gloriously terrible ones. So I'm having a lot of fun with that. My goal is to have that out right before 28 Years Later drops, so that everyone can kind of have a fun lead up. I am not going to try and compete with people like the Critical Drinker on on rating, 28 years later. So I thought I would do a fun history leading up to that point instead.
I didn't even know
Um,
they were making a years one yet.
oh yeah,
Damn.
yeah. Oh, and I don't normally watch trailers because people don't seem to know how to make trailers anymore. But the trailer for that one is glorious. It doesn't give away anything, and yet the mood it sets is fabulous. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I also have some games that have been sent to me by companies, much to my surprise, asking me to do reviews. So those will also be coming out, I hope, by the end of this month. But as always, things seem to be running a little later than I would like them to be. So, and then tomorrow I will be on Dadman Walking's channel to talk about writing and editing. And next week I will be on Next Thursday is going to be very busy. I am going to be on Jack Tarlad's channel from 5 to 7 and on Roman's channel from 8 to 10. So yeah, there's that. So that's where you can find me, and that is what is coming up with me. So again, I want to thank everyone for coming tonight. It's been a wonderful evening and a
Thanks for having me.
very pleasant end to a somewhat rough day. So I really enjoy having you all here. And I hope everyone has a great night. Happy headbutting.
Meet me at the tavern, have a drink or two. I'm the eclectic goat, and I'm here to gab with you. We'll talk about immersion, adventure, heavy lows, characters and story, warlocks and barbarians and bards, comedy or horror. We got inspiration if you're in need of it, or just need to hang out somewhere cozy. We're the guys for you, we've got time for you. Come and join the crew, here's what to do. Meet us at the tavern, have a drink or two. I'm the eclectic goat, and I'm here to play with you. We'll discuss the theory and the mechanics, how we ask for crits, Dungeons and Dragons and Wizards. Meet us at the tavern, have a drink or two. I'm the eclectic goat, and I'm here to play with you. We'll discuss the theory and the mechanics, how we ask for crits, Dungeons and Dragons and Wizards.